planning your writing.
Every assignment that you have will be slightly different, and so before you start to plan your answer or plan what you're going to do in response to that assignment, you need to take a bit of time to analyse the task and make sure that you've really understood the instructions.
By looking at the action that is required. For example, are you being asked to explain something, analyse something, discuss something, and then think, well, are there any limitations on this? For example, is it an essay question that involves a specific time period?
Looking at the any guidelines you've been given by your lecturer or by the school.
You might be doing more of a report-based assessment, and in that case there could be an answer to the task that you've been set. Otherwise it might be a more discursive piece of writing, something like that, in which case it would be for you to decide the answer that you're going to present.
You have to explain what your answer is to the specific thing, or indeed if you want to propose more than one potential answer, that's also a legitimate response.
One of the things to try and do before you start writing is to have some sense of what your answer is to the question that you're being asked.
It might be helpful to do something like, imagine you're using Twitter. Imagine putting your answer in a tweet or putting it as one single sentence to keep it focused on exactly what is the point that you're trying to get across. When you're planning your work, you might have a sense of of the different things you want to include, but at the early stages it might not be very clear how you want them all to fit together. So one thing you might want to think about is just basically brainstorming the ideas and making notes of these things, and then later on going through a process of prioritising these things.
And a really good way of doing that is to get yourself a pack of post-it notes and to write down ideas around what the themes might be, and stick them either onto a big piece of paper or the wall or a whiteboard, and play around with that and see how that looks.
In general, there are three main components in any written assignment. There will be some form of introduction, which provides context, provides the main message, the main argument, for example. There will then be what we call the body of the assignment, and this is where you provide the detail, you provide for example, your discussion, any analysis, the evidence, the data that you're using, and this will occupy the bulk of the piece of work. And then finally there is a conclusion. This is where you draw everything together and you provide an overall answer to the question or the task that you've been asked to do.
Important that you start to think about having a very clear structure to the writing that you are going to do, and if you can do that from the outset, then it's more likely that you'll end up producing a clearer piece of structured writing.
It may be, of course, that you don't have to make decisions about organising things yourself anyway. If, for example, you're writing in the sciences, you may be required to follow a particular format of the text that you're writing. So the extent to which you are free to make these decisions yourself does vary a little bit from discipline to discipline.
You might want to think about the shape of your writing. There might be a kind of a visual that you can use that helps you to think about keeping a very clear structure that can be conveyed and understood by your reader. Some people like to think of a diamond shape to their writing. Others might like to think of more of a funnel shape, kind of filtering down their ideas until they come to their main point. There are a variety of different shapes that will be helpful for you depending on the task that you're doing and the kind of writer that you are.
Often in academic work, it's useful to go from the larger components down to the more specific things, or possibly the more theoretical things down to the practical things. In a sense, a little bit like you're zooming in on your topic as you're going through the body of your work, rather as if you're using a zoom lens in a camera, or maybe looking at Google Earth and zooming in to eventually look at your own house. The most important person in our writing is the reader. If the reader thinks, "Why are you telling me this?" or "What is the point you're making?" then your writing is not going to have any effect. So we need all the time to be reminding ourselves of, okay, how does this little bit fit into the overall picture?
We're very interested not only in what, for example, what is said in the literature or what other people have argued, but what do you think about that? And this structure of how we organise our writing, how we put it together, brings that out, and that can allow you to demonstrate your full grasp of the particular topic, of the information, of the data, of the literature that you're using, but then showing that you are using it to achieve a particular purpose.
Well, if you've thought very clearly about what it is that you need to include in your answer, make sure that you are really meeting the requirements of the task that you've been set, and you've presented your reader with a well-organised answer that they can clearly follow and understand, then you're much more likely to get a higher mark.
To find out more about the Learning Enhancement team, you can visit our website or follow us on Twitter.